Hi, welcome to my weekly Casing the Catalog video and blog. I am Kate, a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Washington State, and today's video is all about taking a card sample from the catalog and trying to duplicate it and show you how it was done so that you can be inspired to try some of the new products in the catalog. This particular set is in the main catalog. It is called The Right Triangle, and I bought the bundle. Let's bring that out here. This is the stamps, that are in the set, and we're going to be using this little one right here today, and then it has the dies as well for cutting out a bunch of different triangles. So let's get started, and I'll show you how to make this card that you will find on page 35 of the current annual catalog. I started with a base card of Whisper White. Oh, better get that. Here it is. Base card of Whisper White, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And I am going to cover the entire front of the card with Mint Macaron. And that is, get the right one, here we go. A 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece, and I do it this way so that the inside of the card stays white. You could make it out of just this for the base card and then cut a piece of Whisper White and put on the inside, but sometimes I just don't want to do that. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to attach this to the front of the card flat. Get my tape to work. And no borders or anything, it's just going to go right on the front of the card, just like that. So there's that. That's the base card. I'm going to set that aside for now. And I'm going to bring in the next layer, which is also Mint Macaron, and it is cut 5 by 3.5. And this is what we're going to build our design onto. To do that, we need to stamp this image with Mint Macaron, and then we are going to twice. And I used a piece of cardstock here, and it is 3 1/4 inches wide, top to bottom here, and it's just an 11-inch piece, but you won't need the full 11 inches, but trying to conserve a little bit. And so we will stamp that one, press it down good, so get a good image. Sometimes, and you can see where it didn't stamp real well, sometimes these photopolymer stamps need something behind them so they'll stamp better. Let's turn it over and let's start again, because I didn't like the way that turned out at all. So let's ink it up again. Oopsie. And let's see if we can't get a little bit better image by putting the foam pad behind it. You don't have to really worry about keeping it straight or anything on here because you're going to cut it out. And so it's not going to matter. Oh, that's much better. Okay, let's clean up my block. This is the largest stamping block which you will need in order to be able to use this particular stamp. Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, sometimes with these larger images, smaller ones you can probably get away with it more often, but these larger images in the photopolymer, sometimes they need a little bit of foam behind them. Okay, and then you're going to use the die from the set, this die, and we're going to cut those out. So let's bring in our Stamp and Cut Emboss machine. And there is a little bit of room for a border there, so you don't have to be super careful. It will line up pretty easily. Just want to get it square with the world because those stripes are pretty defined. So let's get that in here. There we go. And we'll cut that one out. And it has some stitching on it that I don't know if you can see it, but there's stitching around, so that's kind of cool. And we'll cut out the other. You can save the scraps for other things, like we always do. There we go. Okay, I'm going to set that aside. So there's our first two pieces, and they are going to go on here flat. So I'm just going to use regular adhesive on these, and you want to get me some scrap paper here because I don't want to get tape on my background. Be sure and get the corners, and so you might have to overlap just a little bit to get those. And these go on tight to the corners. There's no border, so we're going to put it right up to the edge on the two sides, like that. And we'll do the other one. You can see that's where I turned the paper over. Cardstock, I should say. And again, just right to the edge and to the corner. Okay, that creates the first little bit. And then I'm going to close this before I get ink on something I don't want it on. Okay. Then the next step was to take this smaller triangle die and stamp it, and 1.5 inches wide top to bottom by about 10 inches is all you'll need to stamp this on. You could use your scraps from the other piece. There isn't a die to cut out this particular this triangle, so I had to cut them out by hand, but you can see how I stamped them so that you can save as much space of your cardstock as you can. And then I again forgot to put double-sided adhesive on the back of my pieces, so I used my Xyron sticker machine and put sticky on the back of these. Now when I designed the first card, I used my removable adhesive and I laid out these pieces in the center to kind of get a feel for how they would lay, so I could pick them up and work with them a little bit more easily and get them where I wanted them to be. I'm hoping, and we'll see how I do, to not have to do that this time. I'm hoping to be able to just lay it down now that I know what I'm doing. And I'll keep this by my side here so I can kind of see. And what I'm going to do is I'm leaving just a little bit of a gap here, like that. And I'm going to stick it down like that. And then the next piece, again, I'm just trying to leave the same amount of gap between them and above and below. That's the goal. So let's see how we do. I may be making another video. We'll see. Okay, and then this one, just trying to leave that gap. Oopsie, stuck to me. And I don't know, how much of a perfectionist you might be, but I'm just doing my best and not going to worry too much about it. Okay. And again, just leaving that gap, and I seem to be getting just a little bit tight to the top. Let's see if I can pull that up and rearrange it just a little bit. Yeah, there's still a gap there. Might be better, now that I'm doing this, might be better to do this one first, because then you could leave the gap between them and the gap at the top. Let's see. There we go. And then the next one would be easier to place, because then you could adjust it out. That definitely helped. So that's something to remember when you're doing yours, is that it's probably easier to do this one first. And then this one next. And then you're going to have one more to place, and you're going to have some to trim off. Like that. Okay, and let's get my snips, and we will trim off the extra. Get rid of that. And there, that's pretty. I like it. Okay, then this is going to go onto the card front with dimensionals. Get my card front up here. And I was a little bit generous with the pieces, with the dimensionals. Okay, make sure my card opens the right way, and we will put this on here. Basically, you're just centering it top to bottom, side to side, and the top and bottom margins are going to be a little bit different than the ones from to the side. That's okay. So there's the basic card front, and then we did the sentiment. This is terracotta tile, and I did not have the stamp set they have, which is You're Just So Fabulous, but I pulled this So Grateful for Someone Like You in My Life. I pulled from the Country Home stamp set, and I am going to be stamping it and embossing it with white embossing powder. So I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to turn on my heat tool so it'll start preheating. I'm going to put some anti-static powder on this piece so that my embossing powder doesn't stick where I don't want it. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment. You know, pardon if my head gets in here. I've got to kind of see down there. There we go. And then I have, this is going to be a small piece to try and hold on to, so I have these little hemostats that I'm going to just gently grasp the corner of, and I will bring in my embossing powder and cover that really well. Knock off the extra. That's good. And then we will heat emboss. Like it's melted down enough. Close that up. And then in the catalog they had some 1/4 inch crinkle seam binding that they put underneath the sentiment here. I don't have that, but I did have the white linen from the Flowers for Every Season white linen, and it's 1/2 inch wide. So what I did is I took a piece and I cut it in half to make it 1/4 inch. And it's not perfect, but it will work. And trim off just a little bit there and make my ends angled. That one's already angled. And so then I put some adhesive on the back, just a couple of strips at each end, because it needed to be narrower. It didn't work wide. And so then I just, and this piece is 10 inches long, just so you know. And I just did that and then made a loop on that end and brought it back around, made a loop on this end and brought it around so that it sticks out partway on that end as well, just like that. So that's the sentiment piece. And then I am going to put dimensionals on top of that in the back to attach it with. And we'll put that on the card and just kind of right down here in the corner, not any particular place. Isn't that pretty? And then I used the Artistry Blooms adhesive backed sequins, and they have some orange ones in there, and they are perfect for this. They match beautifully. And I'm just going to put a few of those around here just to kind of give it a little bit of bling. And there's two different sizes, so I did play with both sizes. Let's put one in there. And then we'll put the opposite down here. We'll go with a couple of big ones and a small one on this half. And there's no right or wrong place to put them. So there they are. There's our card for today. Again, it was Casing the Catalog from page 35 using the Right Triangle Bundle. I do sell the products that I feature in my videos, and the link to my online store will be in the description below. Thanks for stopping by.